All right, I just refined it a little bit, kind of cleaned it up. Still need to fix some areas, but we've got what we want, right? We've had some experience at least with working with the charcoal, spreading it around, and getting different values with the charcoal. So now our next step is to create our sphere and light source and draw an actual object. So I'm going to start out using, of course, my shoulder to make a nice round sphere, very, very lightly. I'm not pushing hard. Here. And I'm going to have my light source come from this angle right here. So let's just put in our core shadow. Again, you know, if you want to get technical, but it's where the light is going to hit and then go away from the object. So right here, as soon as it comes around there, it's starting to get dark. So that's our core shadow right here. So I'm going to place that in. You don't want it to be too far over, and you don't want it to be too far under. You want it to be right at that point where the light is going to hit and it's going to come around. So, and notice that if I just kind of come in here and darken in this area, like so, I'm going to have a nice uniform shadow. And I have, right, again, it's going to come down, it's going to hit there, so that's where my cast shadow is going to start. And if I come down like this, this is where the cast shadow is going to come to. It's going to be like this. So there's my cast shadow. All right, I'll place a table like this in the background. Okay. Now I can go in here with my chamois cloth or my tissue paper, and I'm going to spread this around, smooth it out, just like little circles. That allows me to keep things controlled. If I go across like this, right, it'll go everywhere. So I just do little circles to kind of keep things nice and controlled. I know where I'm going to be spreading it around, and okay, come out like that. Yeah, good. That's what we want right there. And since I have used the tissue paper and it pulled up a little bit of the charcoal, I already have it to the point where I kind of want it where it's the reflected light. So this area is going to be a little bit lighter, right, as the light comes down and bounces back over. So now what I want to do is I want to darken my core shadow. So I'm going to come in like this and just hit that core shadow like so. And where this point hits the ground like this, where that right there, that's what's called the occlusion shadow. It's where it's dark right underneath. So I'm going to darken the cast shadow. It's going to get lighter as it comes out towards this point, but only slightly lighter. And then just going to that. Okay. Now that I have this, as you go from here to here, it's a very subtle change. It does change from the lightest point down to this, but it's going to be very subtle. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to just soften my edge. I don't want to take away too much, but I do want to soften that edge so it is not like a stripe going across where it all of a sudden gets dark. I want it to be a subtle change from light to dark. And again, it's very subtle, but I am going to spread that all the way up to here until we get to the farthest edge where we're going to place our highlight. So, and I can come back in here. Now that I kind of have my circle, go back in and refine my edge. So I'm just going to take that pencil, erase all these extra lines that I use to kind of find my circle. Right. Pull out these. I can take away these little tangent lines that I created to figure out my cast shadow. and then refine the circle so it looks like a circle. A good trick is to flip it upside down or just kind of around to see if there's any like inconsistencies, if there's any area where it doesn't look like a circle. But it's looking pretty good so far, so I'm not going to change too much. Okay, right there. And I'll just come in here, get rid of all of those little shavings from the eraser. Awesome. Okay, so now refine that core shadow a little bit. Since we lost a little bit of it, I'm going to come back in here and fix that. And this is still a little bit darker, so I'm going to come back in here and just hit that area a little bit more. And then we need to figure out our highlight, right? This is going to be the brightest point right here. So I will hit this and lighten this area up here and just slowly pull away so that this really is the highlight of the ball. It's where the light's hitting, coming down and hitting this right here. So I just want to soften this ever so slightly. And we're almost there. We're pretty close. The last thing I want to do, and this will help that ball to really stand out and make it look like it's white, is, or at least really bright, is to come in and darken our background. So this right here I want to soften just a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to come in like this and shade. Careful not to go over my already well-drawn sphere. But I do want to create a dark background. So I'm just going to come across like this. So that's nice and dark, like that. And then if you want to, I start out at the circle and then move out. That way I don't go across and ruin everything that I've done. So just start right at the circle and just kind of fan out. We'll go darker eventually, but at least we have something in the background. That makes that circle really pop. And I can refine that edge. Notice how I'm just kind of going back and forth between kind of pulling out, blending, going back in, refining with my pencil, with my eraser. See, like this right here, this isn't a perfect edge, so I can come back in with my kneaded eraser, make it a little teeny little point, like this little ridge right here. Just pull that out like there, and then go back in and refine that if I need to. So and same. But notice how we can cover a lot of area really quickly if we need to. We can be really meticulous and be very detailed if we need to. Charcoal's awesome. It allows us to do a ton in our drawing. I can come back in here, be really refined, like this edge right here. I don't quite see it. This edge right here, it's a little bit more refined. But you can be as meticulous as possible. Some things to remember: we don't want a big dark outline around our circle. So if you have a big dark outline, make sure that you are refining it down to so that you have one value against another value and there's no big dark outline around it. Another thing to think about is you may have some kind of lost edges because one value might be the same value as the background. So notice like right here, this kind of gets lost. And that's okay because it's about the same value as the background. And this right here is about the same value as the table that it's sitting on. So that's okay. Lost edges are cool. They kind of help your eye to move around the piece, the artwork, and it's what you actually would see in real life. So they don't have to be there, but I kind of like, they're just a nice little artistic thing that you can put in there. So soften this right here, soften that there, and soften this right here, erase that right there. Boom, we're done. Refine that core shadow if you need to. But that's pretty much what we want to do with the charcoal, is to create a nice sphere and have a light source that's coming and hitting this point right here, which should be the only point that's the lightest. So I can even soften this edge right here, soften this over here so it's darker. So that's our only point. If this was a very shiny ball or smooth ball, I could come in and create my little reflected highlight, which you would see if, for example, you were, looking at it from the angle of seeing the light source hitting it like this, and you were standing at it and you saw this little reflected light kind of hitting the side. That little reflected light is not, does not have anything really to do with the form. It has everything to do with where you are at and where the light source is at, and it will kind of move across the object as you move around it. So if you've ever looked at something really shiny and seen this little highlight that kind of moves with you as you go across it, that's what we want to put in there. So I'm going to come in there and I'm going to stick it right here, and I'm going to use my trusty eraser here, because this gets down to the right down to the back to the paper. It's pretty awesome. This guy right here. I'm just going to go like this. And there we go. So it's just a teeny little highlight. You could do it with this if you wanted to. You could pull it out with just your pencil. But that's how it works. So anyway, I'm going to pick up all these little shavings with my eraser. And luckily this thing kind of self-cleans. So I can just kind of do like that, and then you're back to normal. Okay, that's the sphere. Next one is our grid drawing. So until next time.